Alright. Alright, so we got a few people in here. So let's go and get started. I'm going to see, can I pull? Yes, I can do that. Okay. I'm going to move Miss Johnston's little notification up here. Alright, so we're doing the first 5 chapters. Quick survey. Who's read the entire book so far? If you haven't, we haven't required you to.
You can't see me, but I'm raising my hand.
Miss Johnston's raising her hand. I haven't read the whole thing yet. I've only read my chapters.
So what happens when you give yourself the first chapters, you can stop.
Exactly. Oh, I just read it all. I read the first 6 like 2 times. The first 6 chapters. 1/4 done with notes. All right, that's pretty good. Okay. I'm very curious to see where this book goes. I'm to the point of Ice 9 being introduced. Yeah, so I'm very curious to see what happens with all that. It's very cool. I really like this book. Do you like it, Miss Johnston?
It was keeping me going until we got to the end, and then I was like, wait, it just stopped.
Okay.
Well, because I was reading it on an ebook, so I didn't know how long it was going to be.
Right.
And then it was over, and I was like, wait, where's the rest?
Yeah. Is it beneficial to read the summary before the book so you know what to expect? Miss Johnson, you could probably answer that better than I can.
Yeah, I thought that gave good insight into how, it kind of came about and different life influences affected it. I mean, I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So I think there's kind of I think that's Alon kind of the good counterpoint, right? Like trying to piece it together. I think could be interesting. I don't know if it's like a mystery per se or anything like that, but like I kind of like reading it at first and then kind of going back in and stuff.
But in the print version of the book, at least the one I have, there's not an introduction or anything. It just starts.
Yes. Yeah.
But on the digital book, there was a nice lead into it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it had a good amount of background information and a little bit about Vonnegut and kind of some of the influences. It was interesting. I just checked that one out from the library. It was free to do.
Okay. So, yeah, I read the chapters, and if I'm confused, read chapter summaries on Spark Notes. I agree, and hopefully we can kind of use these discussions to help flesh out people's knowledge and like kind of understanding what's going on. Because I think Frankenstein was mostly pretty straightforward. There were obviously metaphors, but once you kind of saw them, they're very obvious. This one doesn't seem to be that obvious. I don't know. Again, Ms. Johnson, I don't know if you agree, but it seems like this one's a little harder to piece out.
It is, and I think it's kind of how you interpret it and what deeper meanings you're looking for. But you also kind of have to remember the time period in which it was written and some of the things that Vonnegut had experienced. So it's definitely satirical, but it's got that kind of underlying edge to it, like something like Catch-22 also had, where they're trying to point out the, I guess, hypocrisy of how things are run and kind of the weird way things are done. Especially because you're showing 1963 right now, you have to kind of remember what was going on with the United States and Latin American and Caribbean countries at the time. In that context, it makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so U.S. and Latin American country relationships. Again, you're discussing this from a kind of long term. You've read the whole book, so just where I'm at, if you told me this was like something that the book related to, I'm shocked right now that like this matters in some way to the book.
Yeah, it's very much a novel of its time, and as you get through it, that starts to become more apparent and make a lot more sense.
Yeah. Alon, you talking about the movie The Lighthouse? Yes, the movie The Lighthouse is very good. Casey, can you see where the kiddos are typing in and stuff?
I cannot.
Okay, let me see if I can send that over to you real quick.
Is that Twitch thing?
Yes, I'm sending you a link to it.
I think the link came through under Mind. I might be able to track it down.
Okay, I put it in a conversation on Teams as well.
That's even better.
So 1963. Speaking of something else that happened here, which I just picked up, possibly alluded to in the early part of the book or not. But this is the year JFK is also assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
Which the only allusion I really picked up is the name of the guy who sent the book to Dr. Honecker. The book about the end of the world. I don't know if you remember that. Let's see if I can find his name. Um,
I think they just called him the guy in prison, right?
No, no, he has a full name. He has a Marvin Sharp Holderness.
Oh yeah.
Marvin Sharp Holderness, this is in chapter 4, chapter 5. Marvin Sharp Holderness, which kind of has the, you know, John Wilkes Booth or who's the guy who killed JFK?
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Lee Harvey Oswald, right? That kind of three person name, right? Are the decathlon questions 5 questions every day? They were around. They were 30 last year, which I'm assuming is Megan. They're 30 for Cat's Cradle for each of the things. So we're gonna do just 30 straight. We're not doing recall yet. What is the remind code? I will get that to you in a little bit if you can remind me. But anyways, now let's actually get some organization here. Should we take notes as you read? If you want, it's up to you. So he this whole first chapter, him being called Jonah. Do they explain why he's called Jonah in this book ever?
No.
Okay, so I looked it up. I looked up what Jonah is. I didn't look up Jonah like Cat's Cradle. There is the old book of Jonah in the Old Testament.
Jonah and the whale?
Jonah and the whale, yes, correct. So what Jonah is supposed to do is he's a messenger from God to go to Nineveh and tell Nineveh they're going to die. And he kind of chickens out, and then God punishes him by, he goes on a boat, and then a whale eats him. And then he kind of begs for forgiveness, and then he eventually gets to Nineveh and kind of is like this end of the world kind of prophet thing for Nineveh. And I don't know if this is what he's doing or not, but what I kind of picked up is that he is writing a book called The Day the World Ended. Right, that is his intent at the beginning of the book. Right, and so I don't know if it was supposed to be some sort of connection here, right? Because Jonah's kind of calling the end times of Nineveh, and he is also writing a book called The Day the World Ended. And so I don't know if there's any connection there. I don't know if I'm kind of going too far on that.
Well, you also have the literary allusion to Moby Dick, which the first line of Moby Dick is "Call me Ishmael."
Oh, okay.
Which is also weirdly about a whale.
Yeah, that is interesting. Are there any other whale allusions in the rest of this book?
No, mostly the other allusions I see are bugs, especially with Frank. Frank the Bug Wrangler, or whatever they called him. Bug Tormentor?
Yeah, the Bug Tormentor, the other brother. Shut up about whales, yes. So literary to Moby Dick, that's really good. So yeah, I don't understand this whole thing. Maybe it's like, because he's going on about his name's John. If he would have been a Sam, he would have been a Jonah. I don't know if we're looking too much into this. Maybe it's kind of some idea of like his identity within the Karas and the Bokanonism and stuff. I'm not entirely sure.
Well, I mean, I think as you get deeper into the book, that idea of Jonah being a messenger who sort of fails in his thing and gets I don't know, waylaid in a matter of speaking, or lost in a way, can definitely work. You also, like I said, that the way that it opens is Melville-esque. So you have that harkening back, and he does that a couple of times in the book, where he'll allude to other pieces of literature.
Yeah,
you just kind of have to know what's going on. I might have missed some of them, but I did catch a few. So
okay. So yeah, I think maybe there's something there. Maybe we can flesh that out over time. All right, so then there's the younger man, which somebody already pointed out. Hey, there's 3 answer choices there. Would it be a shame if I made a multiple choice question out of that one, right? 2 wives, 250,000 cigarettes, 3,000 quarts of booze ago. So he's collecting this book, and then this book is about one of the students tell me, what's this book supposed to be about? And I'll give you guys some time because I know I'm on a slight delay.
It's got a little hitch in your giddy up.
Yeah, it's delayed on purpose. Let's see if anybody wants to answer here. Leah, yeah. So the book The Day the World Ended is originally about the day the atomic bomb dropped, right? Yeah, you guys got it. Okay. And so the other thing I find interesting in this section, and also maybe ties to Jonah, is that he says specifically this is a Christian book, right? Or it was supposed to be a Christian book, which, like, I don't know what that means.
Well, I mean, the only thing that I can kind of guess on that is because he's so, I mean, he really introduces you early on to the idea that he's a convert to a new religion.
Right.
So anytime you have a convert later in life to a religion, they're kind of known for their zealousness.
Sure.
So even potentially overzealousness.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's backpedaling and he's saying, well, it was supposed to be a Christian book, which might have been a little bit more mainstream, or you could even maybe read, i.e. Western.
Right.
So he's kind of, I think, like, back in this day, here's what I was. Now I'm this.
Right.
So, I mean, that could be something there.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So I'm seeing, like, Rwand, you're saying that's the religion part, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe kind of ideas. Maybe. Yeah, I could see that. So, Bokononism? Do we... I don't know how to pronounce this.
Bokonism? I don't know.
Bokonism is on the island of San Lorenzo, which is down the Caribbean. Right, the Republic of San Lorenzo, I should say. Sorry, Republic of San Lorenzo. And so it's like only practice there, I guess.
Your air conditioner just snap on?
Yeah, I got a Mach 5 jet coming in this room.
Bocos, I like it.
Yeah, Bocos. Yeah, we'll call them the Bocos. So what are the major aspects of the Bocos as outlined in this section? Give them some time to catch up.
Sure.
Yeah, the Karasses, the Karas. Okay. What is the Karas? Yeah, I might ask that question bad, Leah, as you're saying what. We'll explain. We'll try to go through what a Karas is here in a second. And the can. Yeah. So somebody pointed out Ramush Ash Brown, the Karas, right, is what the teams, right? The teams that do God's will. Do they really expand upon the Bokononism, Casey, Ms. Johnston?
Yeah, I mean, you get more and more as it goes along, but not to be a spoiler, the Bokononism, the Bocos, are an evolving religion because their leader is still
alive,
out and about, adding new elements to his book throughout our book. So that's kind of an interesting feature of them.
And my assumption from the get-go was that the Bocos are probably supposed to relate to communism in some way. That was my original guess. Or like allude to, I should say.
I think this is where you get that satirical element of organized religion by having it be changeable, by having it be based on, what does he say? He says, all of the true things I'm about to tell you are shameless lies. Mm-hmm. So having all of their truth be lies kind of flips it on its ear. So I think it's really kind of a commentary on some of these organized religion things.
Yeah, that one felt kind of old Kurt here kind of took a big shovel and tried to hit you over the head with the anti-religion in that chapter. It is very rough. So the Karas of the Bocos is a group of people that do God's will, and as we're going to see in this next chapter, Your Karas can be anybody. It's almost completely random. And it's never like assigned, right? It's never like these are the people in your Karas, which allows Jonah then to kind of make some jumps and assumptions into who's in his Karas, specifically the Honeckers, right? And then the can is the instrument that brings people into their Karas, right? It's what connects them to their Karas, right? And what's the can for Jonah that brings him into his Karas?
While they're answering that, I want to point out that on the Karas, it's teams that do God's will, but without ever knowing what they're doing.
Right. Yes, I will. I need to add that. Yeah, they have no idea that they're doing that, which I think some people also pointed out there, right? Yeah, they never know it. It's just like, you know, God's will kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the his can that connects him to his Karas, at least again, according to him, is the book that he's writing, The Day the World Ended, which is about Hiroshima, right? How does the book bring him to the cross? Like, what is this process? I think that process is kind of what the book's about, right?
Right.
Yeah. So to learn more about that one, Heyman, you gotta keep reading. All right, we're finally on chapter 2. So he kind of talks out how, like, if you just like find somebody randomly part of your life, they're probably part of your Karas, which is also weird based on the Calypso down here, right?
I'm not sure who him the ant is. Him?
His name is Hamet.
Hamet. I think what you're supposed to get from this is that yes, he's telling you this as a flashback. It's, you know, within the context of fiction, supposed to be semi-autobiographical. So he's looking back on the events and how he got to where he is, but he won't get to where he is until much later in the book.
Yeah, definitely. Is that part of it? Even if they try to find out their purpose, so they're going to be unsuccessful in ever finding out their purpose. Leah, is that what you're saying there? And Casey, and you can kind of jump in here if that's.
Yeah, I find it kind of go on what Leah's saying. I found it kind of interesting that you're not supposed to understand what God's will is and what your shape of it is, and then this whole book is about him telling you what he thinks his Karas and his purpose was and how it unfolds. So there you have kind of a contradictory message.
Yeah.
In that, oh, we don't know what we're doing, but here, let me tell you about my thing that happened to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's another one of those kind of, it doesn't quite match up. It's a contradiction, maybe kind of a paradox.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and as Asha's pointing out, they talk about it with the doghouse, which I believe is the next chapter. Yeah, San Lorenzo is a fake island, but it is a real. It was a real city at some point. It's one of the first colonies in the Americas. It's called San Lorenzo. I'm sorry, it's not a colony. It's shoot, I need to look it up. I think it was an original like city of the indigenous Americans. I could be wrong on that though. I don't think it really matters. Okay. There's a lot of places called San Lorenzo actually, so maybe it's nothing. Anyways, let's move on here. So, the one thing I found interesting is the checkerboard quote. Man created the checkerboard, God created the Karas. So I'm assuming he's saying like man created this idea of like trying to be strategic and like one against the other, and God is more of like none of that matters. Does that feel right?
Oh yeah, I mean, taking that one step further, the checkerboard is very logical, planned. You're sitting there trying to figure out your next move. You're very much aware of what you're doing, whereas the Karas is, well, you don't really know you're part of it or what you're doing.
Right. I like that. Yeah. So people are strategic. Yeah, they're planning, cunning, even. Yeah, God is just like whatever. Yeah, it kind of ignores all those ideas. So and then freeform as an amoeba, which is just like Yeah, it's some wonderful imagery and language here in this book. I love it. I love all the random stuff they say. Um, Alon, I saw this. The people are pieces in God's checkerboard. See, I think my thought was it's more of ignoring the idea of the checkerboard ever existing for God, right? And it's more of like he has this larger notion of people and checker pieces in that way.
Here's a fun fact for you, going back to the San Lorenzo thing. If you figure out that San Lorenzo could also be Saint Lawrence or Saint Lorenzo,
Right.
And there's obviously more than one.
Yep.
So you have one Saint Lorenzo who's the patron saint of cooks, as we're cooking along our story. But there's also there's also one who is a Chinese Filipino who becomes the martyr basically after his execution in Japan when they were persecuting Japanese Christians. So San Lorenzo is the patron saint of the Philippines and Filipino people.
Wow. Huh. That is interesting.
I don't know if we're supposed to be in a Philippines-esque island here. I was thinking it was really more Latin America than the Pacific, but you never know.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So what Calypso number are we do we have here? '53. Yes, we're in the 53rd Calypso. 53rd Calypso. And on the 53rd Calypso, what are the people that are mentioned here? This one might take a while if they're going to do them all. A drunk. Yes. Okay. A Chinese dentist. The queen. Yeah, there we go. So we got the sleeping drunkard. Where is the sleeping drunkard located? We got the lion hunter. We got Central Park, which is obviously I'll give it up. It's in New York City. Where's the lion hunter? Yeah, Hunters in the Jungle Dark. Yes, it rhymes. Yes, it's a calypso. Is a calypso a form of is that a type of song? Do you know, Ms. Johnson?
It's a type of dance.
Yeah, definitely. I knew
or
that.
Music, calypso music.
Yeah, and so they're all in God's machine, right?
It's a kind of West Indian music in syncopated African rhythm, typically with words improvised on a topical theme.
Okay, so a calypso is usually improvised. So is the implication here that Bakonon just like made this all up, like on the spot?
Yes, and he continues to do so throughout the book. You get fresh calypsos because he's like out in the jungles writing them.
Let's do a TikTok dance to this calypso. You can get on that, Leah. Yeah, I think the thing that makes it pretty clear he's improvising is the nice, very nice.
Well, now that yes, I mean as far as you're talking about literary devices and poetical devices, there's one, and I'm not 100% on the pronunciation, but it's like epizeuxis. It's EPIZEUXIS.
EPIZEU. XIS. Yeah. Okay.
And that's basically that repetition of the same word or phrase for emphasis, and it's a little bit different than just plain repetition, because why not have a literary term that are basically the same two things?
Right.
But so there you have that nice is repeated 9 times within there. So.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. And Heyman brings up an idea. So Calypso distracts Odysseus on his journey. So could the books be distractions for Jonah in kind of his story. Maybe I could definitely see that as a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe the Calypsos, in a way, act as his whale,
Hmm.
because we haven't talked about whales in a while. I thought we should bring it
Yeah,
back.
we got to bring the whales back.
Hmm.
I think our shirt is ever evolving. I think we're gonna have a whale on some point on these shirts.
Because it's a whale of a tale.
Or I like Heyman again, like the idea of like all religion maybe is just a distraction, right? Which is why you would, yeah, I could see, man, if Kurt Vonnegut
Yeah.
thought that deeply about this, that'd be intense. But yeah, I could
Well,
see that.
I mean, I think you can probably believe that because, I mean, you saw what I sent you about where Kurt Vonnegut was on December 11th, 1941, for Pearl Harbor, which kind of weirdly, guys, to put this in context for you, I was reading a book about what was happening all around the world on December 7th. So it's kind of the same concept of the book within the book here, the day the world ended,
Mm-hmm.
like worldwide experiences of one event. And one of the ones was Kurt Vonnegut. He was in the bath at Cornell, where he was the editor of the literary magazine or newspaper at the time, and he claimed to have been the first person in the, is it New York, I guess, where Cornell is,
Yeah.
state of New York, who put out a newspaper article about the attack at Pearl Harbor. But then in World War II, Vonnegut is at at Dresden, which is firebombed into oblivion and basically is the foundation for Slaughterhouse Five. So he saw some things
Mm-hmm.
in his life that might have turned him against the idea of organized religion.
Yeah, definitely. That's yeah, that's fascinating, and I think it's pretty clear that he certainly does not like religion. He's like the Voltaire of the time almost in a way. Um, all right, so I think we're on to chapter 3 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is that what it's called? Metafiction, book within a book. What's okay? People from last year. What's that thing called where you have somebody's story within a story already unfolding? Like we had
A framed narrative.
Is that what it's called? A framed narrative, right? It was, yeah, because it was Walton telling the story, and then but then Victor started telling him his story. Epistolary fiction. That's what it was.
Well, epistolary is if it's told in the form of letters.
Okay, yeah. So Walton was originally like the original one from Walton was a letter, and then so this isn't a so this is maybe more of a framed narrative in a way, not necessarily this per se, but that idea.
Well, I don't know that I would go that far because you don't actually get the book within the book. Like he doesn't write the book within the book. He just kind of references it.
Right, right.
But you do have that kind of oh God, I just lost the word. Most of this is him remembering stuff that happened before.
Yeah.
I lost my words. It's the end of the day.
We can come back to that. Yeah, it's the end of the week. So then he starts to so chapter 3 is the one about the Episcopalian lady, who wants to get a doghouse built. What does she say about the doghouse plans that Bokonon gives her?
Yeah, Ashith, it's not really a framed narrative here. He was talking about Frankenstein.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent, which if you've ever been in my class, you know how that goes. Yeah, so she says she can never understand the blueprints of the doghouse, right? And so how does Bokonon respond to that? Yep. Starleaf, you're right on it. And so can't understand the blueprint, so what she should do is give it to God, and God could even tell her, right? Basically calling her so dumb, right? That God could explain it to you. She also says you give it to your husband or minister, and stuff like that. Yeah, her husband's smarter, right? Which is probably, the sexist times of the 40s or 50s, whenever maybe Bakonon was supposed to be there, right? That's a pretty typical idea, right? Like the man of the house kind of thing. And so I just kind of talking through this. So what job is Bakonon implying he has here? A real head scratcher. A construction worker is close, right? You're on the right path, I think. Like a handyman? Yeah, you're getting close. I mean, we're getting there. You guys are kind of beating around the idea. It really relates to a lot of what we've been talking about already. Not something high up, definitely right. He's definitely like labor. So like, is a connection?
Kathy might be onto something.
Kathy, yeah, Kathy, you're definitely there on it. Bricklayer, so close with bricklayer.
Getting closer.
Carpenter.
There we go.
Yes, Oshith. Yes, carpenter. Right. So Bakonon is equating himself to a carpenter, or saying he's a carpenter. Not equating. He's literally saying. And of course, everybody's favorite carpenter. Maybe not everybody's. Jesus of Nazareth, right, or Jesus Christ. Right. So he's already kind of trying to set that up. With that. Right. Right, so kind of already making that parallel right here pretty early on. I kind of looked up Episcopalians just to see if there's anything there. Nothing too much, but what city is this in? And we'll kind of move away from this.
Episcopalians are kind of known as Catholic light.
Yeah, they only have 2 sacraments. Or 2 sacraments, at least they really care about.
As opposed to 7?
Yeah, as opposed to the 7 that usually occurs. I guess I should have probably mentioned that. Yeah, Newport, Rhode Island is where this is. Actually, I guess some more things on here. What does Bakonon say that the woman thinks God likes in people? And also, what doesn't she like? Hey man, I'll get to that point in a second. We'll come back to that. Yes, so we see this thing of like God prefers people with sailboats rather than what's the other thing? Than motorboats, which I think is like, it's not classist because motorboats are probably more or as expensive as sailboats, right? I think it's just like an old traditional kind of thing, maybe.
Old money versus new money.
Yeah, and she also doesn't like worms, which, as you pointed out with the bug thing, right?
Yeah, this is kind of our first bug reference.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, this chapter delves pretty much into the idea of the shortfalls or pitfalls of religion. What's the chapter title?
Folly. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And so the very last sentence, right? She was a fool, and so am I, and so is anyone who thinks he sees what God is doing, right? So very much just like taking these ideas of being able to translate God as like insane, which is also kind of, I don't know if it's ironic or even paradoxical, because very clearly Bakonon is attempting to do that with things like the cross, right, and stuff like that. So Heyman, you asked a question: if he's like Christ, why does he make fun of someone in the Christian church? He's not saying he's like Christ in the sense that he's also Christian. He's saying he's like Christ in that he's a prophet, right? So he's not like a people of the book kind of thing.
Well, yeah. And he's not running around saying, "Hey, I'm like Jesus."
Right.
We're making that connection based on his job. Yeah.
And also, Leah, as you point out, right, refers back to never knowing your purpose, right? And especially your purpose in God's eyes, right? Definitely. Heyman, or Oshith, I feel like Bakonism is just a way to mock institutional religions. That is absolutely what it seems to be, at least at this point, right? So then we get to a tentative tangling of tendrils, which introduces another Bakononism, which is the tendrils. I think we might be getting to that here in a second.
And fun alliteration in this chapter title.
Yeah. So the kind of key thing in this first sentence here, or this first part of this paragraph, or this chapter, he straight up says, or Bakonon says all truths in this book are lies. Which kind of brings up Ashit's point of criticizing institutional religion, right? Yeah. So I don't think there's too much to unpack from that, Casey, unless you do.
I mean, it's just a bit of a paradox that you're presented with, that the foundation of this religion is contradictory.
Yeah, definitely. And applying that to kind of the rest of it as well. So we are introduced finally to kind of one of our main characters, or not really a main character because he's not really ever just like talked to in the book, but he's kind of, at least at the very beginning, one of the major subjects of the book, and that is Dr. Felix Honecker. Did you do any research on this Dr. Felix Honecker, Ms. Johnson?
I did not.
So I looked him up because it sounds like a real name I've heard once before. And of course, he is not real. This is not a real person. But he is a amalgamation of two people. And I think one of them is probably historically pretty obvious.
Oppenheimer?
Yes. So he is the namesake, at any rate, of Dr. Robert Oppenheimer, who is considered to be the literal father of the atomic bomb. Right. And then kind of looking him up and Googling and seeing some articles, and there was an article on Gizmodo kind of talking about the maybe, more actual influence is a doctor by the name of Irving Langmuir. And I don't even know if I'm necessarily pronouncing that correctly. Okay, Dr. Irving... Oops, sorry. It'd be nice if, even if I'm not pronouncing it right, I should probably be able to spell it right. Dr. Irving Langmuir. And so, for those of you who have not read too far yet, Dr. Honecker is going to invent something called Ice-9. But Dr. Irving Langmuir, as far as I could tell, invented dry ice. And Vonnegut actually came into contact with him while working in a chemistry lab with Dr. Langmuir. And he would end up winning a Nobel Prize. He has a mountain in Alaska named after him. And so he also tried to create an artificial fog that screened ships from enemy attacks during World War II, which is almost exactly what not exactly, but a very similar thing to what the Marines are going to ask Dr. Honecker to do, which is invent something that prevents mud from occurring.
Wait, follow-up question.
Yes.
Was he part of Project Philadelphia at all?
I don't know. That's a good question. I do not know anything about Project Philadelphia.
The Philadelphia Project. It's one of those like sort of conspiracy theories, but it's actually like it was a real project where they were trying to figure out how to mask ships in the Navy, and then allegedly one just disappeared and popped up somewhere else, and some of the people spontaneously combusted on board of it. I mean, it's real crazy stuff.
Huh.
But I didn't. If he was part of that, that could add some of the trippy things that you're going to see later in the book.
That's also, yeah. I'm reading this article, right? He creates an artificial fog to screen ships, which seems like it could also kind of be that thing. He also is the first person to make artificial snow. He used dry ice to make. They took an aircraft and dropped dry ice into the clouds over Massachusetts, and then these dry ice droplets coalesce into snow. Now it was too warm, so by the time they got to the ground, they melted. But so I think here we kind of have an amalgamation of who Dr. Honecker is, right? It's Dr. Robert Oppenheimer as like his title, his role in society in real life. And then possibly this Dr. Irving Langmuir for his innovations and inventions and stuff, right? Okay, so at any rate then, so how does Jonah say he is related, or why does Jonah go talk to Dr. Felix Honecker? Or I guess not talk to, but talk to his children. He doesn't talk to Honecker. You're wrong. You're right, Leah. But like how? So it's to get info about the book. right? That's the original reason. And then eventually he says he's part of his Karas, which is what I meant to ask, but I don't think I asked that very well. And so he eventually says, hey, even though he died, surely he would have been part of my Karas. But so why does he say he okay, we got another term we got to talk about. Sanukas. What's a Sanuka? Yeah, the tendrils of life. Are there a bunch of really weird Bokonist terms in this book, Casey?
Yeah, there's quite a few.
Okay.
Cool. I mean, when I say quite a few, you might get up to like a dozen or so.
That's okay. That's fun. Well, maybe we need to create like a Bokonin book at some point here, because I'm curious to see where that goes. I might actually read the rest of this tonight. I don't know. This book is fascinating. Anyway, so he goes to try to talk to Dr. Honecker. He's dead, and so he's going to go talk to his children. And how does he first get into contact? Who does he first get into contact with from Dr. Honecker's family, and how does he get into contact with him? Newt. Old Newton. Newton Honecker is the first one we're introduced to. He writes a letter to him, but like, how does he understand them to have a connection? Through their fraternity? Where? The Cornell chapter of the Delta Upsilon, which Miss Johnston, I keep rotating between calling you Casey and Mrs. Johnston. I'm trying to keep it professional.
I respond to my name in all forms.
Okay. So CJ. That's interesting that you brought up that. So Kurt Vonnegut went to Cornell.
He did.
That's interesting. I mean, it makes sense. He uses that kind of as a. And he's saying he's a freelance writer from Cornell, which I'm presuming that's kind of what Kurt Vonnegut's life was, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Anything else in this section? So he's just asking him about, trying to get some evidence, some anecdotes for the book about Dr. Honecker, but also about kind of the baby's perspective, right? The child. Is it baby? Is that the word he uses? Yeah, the baby's perspective. Of the Hiroshima bomb.
Here's a fun fact for you.
Okay.
Since I don't, are we to the point where we've been introduced to Newt's stature?
No, we have not been introduced to the height of Newton Honecker yet.
Okay. Well, the Delta Upsilon fraternity is a real fraternity, and it is the world's oldest non-secret, non-hazing fraternity.
Ah. Yes, so that's probably the reason why Newton joined that one. Because for those of you who have not gotten to this part, Newton Honecker is very short. Extremely short. Like a medical condition-wise kind of short.
Right? He is a little person.
Yes, there you go. Thank you. That's a much better way to put it. I like how it says fraternally yours here at the end of his letter.
Well, I mean, this chapter has a lot of that idea of brothers and fathers.
Mm-hmm.
Of Dr. Felix Honecker being the father of the first atomic bomb. You have him being the father of Newton Honecker. Then you have Newton Honecker being one of the two sons, so he has a brother. And then you have Jonah making that connection that we are also brothers through our fraternity. So it's like this weird familial connection.
Yeah, sorry. One more time. Can you kind of go through those again? I'm sorry. I was trying to write down what you were saying.
Sorry. Yes. I mean, you have Dr. Felix Honecker being one of the fathers of the bomb.
Right.
But he's also the father of these three children, which whoever mentioned it earlier, that literary rule of three.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Newton also, they're being brothers within the siblings. He has Frank. Right, we haven't met Frank yet. And then Jonah reaches out to him on that connection of, hey, we're brothers, but also obviously meaning fraternity brothers.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. And I think, so then, um, to kind of maybe tie this all together for what Miss Johnson's trying to get to here, what is he maybe talking about? Like, what is his fatherhood and brotherhood? What maybe connects all these people at a larger scale?
Oh, I like what Hammett said.
What did Hammett say? By transit property, the children are all atomic bombs.
Okay, so I mean, if you read into that, that somehow the children are all dangerous to mankind,
Yeah.
potentially, there could be some foreshadowing there.
There absolutely is. But yeah, as Leah, what I was kind of getting at with Leah is the Karas, right? They're all part of the same Karas in that sense. But I think even again, thinking of it as like, yeah, they're all transitive properties, right? The siblings of the atomic bomb. That's phenomenal. I really like that. Newton is a little boy. No, Newton is 18, 19. He's not. He is a little boy.
On the day the bomb is dropped.
Yes.
On the day the bomb is dropped, he's 6 years old.
That's true. He is in fact a little boy. This chapter 5, I think, is fascinating. I kind of learning about Dr. Honecker. Yeah. So let's get into letter from a pre-med. I'm going to save this as real quick. Cat's Cradle 1 through 5, 1 to 5, part 1. I'm gonna open up a new one. All right. Let me see. Also, I haven't looked at my notes at all.
I also kind of thought it was interesting that he has the book called The Day the World Ended, set for the August 6th dropping of the bomb on Hiroshima, and then just like, forget you, Nagasaki.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I don't know if they ever talked about Dr. Honecker's stature, but they do talk about his, like, appearance. Do they ever call him fat?
Off the top of my head, I can't remember. I know that you're going to get that up close.
Yeah. Yes.
So seeing it from the perspective of a 6-year-old, he probably is a large fellow, but...
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, so the little boy definitely could apply to Newton here. But so, all right, so let's kind of talk through here. So Newton replies, so this chapter and the last chapter, or at least part of the last chapter, these should be considered epistolary fiction, right?
Right.
Right. So it's being written in letters, right? So we see epistolary fiction here in chapters 4 and 5. I don't know if this is the only time there's letters or not. Yeah, Leah, his pores. We'll get to that. That is a heck of a writing from from Kurt. So he talks about so Newton replies to Jonah. He says, "Hey, I don't know too much. You should talk to my brother and sister." And so, kind of as our first question here, I want the exact address and the name, address, and street of where Newt's sister lives. All right, so we got the address at 4018 North Meridian Street. Okay, what's her name? What's the address name, or like the name that you would mail stuff to? Indianapolis, Indiana. Which great city. I don't know if you've ever been there, Casey, but it is. I like it a lot.
I have not.
I used to go there when they had the Formula One race there. I went there a couple times, and it was great. Mrs. Harrison C. Connors, which of course is not her original name, which you should imply then she is probably married to one Harrison Connors, I would assume. Right. What happens to his brother? Sure. No. That's not.
He left after his dad's funeral and has been missing for 2 years.
Yes. So he left after the funeral, which was 2 years ago, at the point of the writing of this note. Right, so Leah, flip it around. Yeah, this is Frank, not Newt. Yeah. So yeah, as soon as the father's funeral happened, he disappears, which I think as we start to learn more about Frank, he seems quite dangerous. So he's only 6 when the atomic bomb drops on Hiroshima. And what's going on in the house while this day, which it's insane to me that he remembers this. It's fascinating, I should say.
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Well, this is to them more of, but what's going on this day?
I gotcha.
He's playing with the car. Okay. Heyman, I'm gonna get back to your other thing in a second here.
Yeah, that's what I was reading, and
Yeah,
I was like, what?
That's wild. So, Newt is playing with the car, going burden, twice, right? He says burden 6 times.
Yeah.
The doctor, the father, Felix, he's smoking a cigar. He's playing with the loop, of string. Right. Mr. McEdgelord in chapter 63. No shame in that. And the string is from a book titled 2000. Is it just 2000 or is it 2000 AD?
2000 AD, I believe.
Yeah, it's a very adult book that's about, the end of the world, which is interesting. And it's from, and we'll talk more about this book here in a second, because I think there's some stuff to look into there, in a way. But yeah, as somebody's pointing out, right, he, with this loop of string, will eventually make a cat's cradle.
Not to digress, but we talked about Newt saying Burton
Yep.
twice.
Yep.
Milton Burton was actually one of the pioneers in the field of radiation chemistry that helped work on the atomic bomb and the Manhattan Project.
Wow. I wonder if there's a lot of those going around.
Like little embedded things.
Yeah. So a cat's cradle is apparently a game played with string. Wikipedia says it's one of the oldest games on Earth.
Wait, do you not know what cat's cradle is?
I know what cat's cradle is. I didn't realize it was a game. I thought it was just like a shape you make.
Well, okay, so you do the thing. You have you start with the circle and you weave it through one of your middle fingers, then your other middle fingers, and it makes this kind of cross thing.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody sticks their hand through it, and then you release it, and their hand is trapped.
Right.
It's like wrapped up in the string. Then you make the same shape again, and they stick their hand back through it, and they're released.
Okay, so you're trying to catch them in it?
Right, but the same action also releases you from the confines.
So, how much do we need to look into this term? I mean, it's obviously the name of the book, but do you think, like, within the context of the book, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the idea of cat's cradle?
I mean, I think you have that maybe background theme of we're kind of designing our own trap, but we could also be our own way out of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So
it is more of a trick, yeah. To call it a game is a little weird.
Yeah, so I looked it up on Wikipedia. There's apparently a game where, like, what you do is, like, somebody else comes in and, like, takes a string, removes a string or something, and it kind of creates different shapes from there. Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, because what you can do is you pinch the bottom and top groups and wrap them around, and it creates another, not really trap. I don't know. I did learn the other day that nobody still plays this because I had Mardi Gras beads the other day, and I was doing it at school, and none of the kids knew how to do it.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's definitely something not of this time for certain, because I didn't know too much about it either. All right, so let's see, what else? Let's all learn how to play. I don't know about that. We're no fun here, right? No TikToks, no cat's cradle. So they're in Ilium, New York. I'm gonna just go ahead and write that out because you better know that at this point if you've read. What's the company that Dr. Honecker works at? Okay, maybe related to Ice Nine. Okay, I can see that. He dies at Cape Cod, correct? When does he die at Cape Cod? As we're getting away from this. Spoilers, man. We're gonna all read this at some point, so I would rather avoid spoilers.
It tells you he dies right there on page 9.
I thought McEdgelord was going to provide spoilers for the rest of the book by talking about Oshith's idea. Yes, he dies on Cape Cod Christmas Eve, which had to at least been about 2 years ago, because his brother died. His brother left 2 years ago. Right.
And for those of you keeping track of inane literary references, where it says the only place he liked to go outside of Ilium was our cottage on Cape Cod. Cape Cod was where he died. He died on Christmas Eve. That's a literary device called anadiplosis.
Anadiplosis.
Where you start the next sentence with the ending of the sentence prior to it.
Start next sentence with sentence ending it.
Right, so you go from Cape Cod to Cape Cod. He died to he died.
Yeah. There you go. No, we need those interesting little things for sure. All right, so he's playing with the cat's cradle. And so actually, let's talk about 2000 AD for a second. 2000 AD is written by Marvin Sharp Holderness. What is this book about? Hang on, Rowan, do you listen to Idols? Yes, the end of the world in 2000. All right, so this book is about end of the world in 2000. Who shows up at the end of the world? Yeah, there's a big bomb, right? They destroy the world with the atomic bomb. And then Jesus shows up. Which I find very interesting after all of our conversation about this earlier. Right. And then also there's an orgy scene. Which is what the boys really care about, what both Frank and Newt really care. At least Frank cares a lot about. Which, yeah, 10 seconds before the end of it, which is weird. Yeah, it's kind of the second coming of Christ, right? That probably sounds like what it's talking about, yeah? Yeah, definitely. Also, so why is Marvin Sharp Holderness sending this to Dr. Honecker? This is like an amateur writer, right? Why is he sending it to Dr. Honecker? All written by a guy in jail, understandable, yeah. This guy clearly has a few screws loose. So he wants to make sure his info about bombs is correct in his book. And then also, as somebody's already pointed out, right, he is in prison for killing his own brother. Which, kind of, Casey, going back to what you talked about the kind of connections of fathers and brothers earlier, right?
Yeah, now we have a case of fratricide here.
Right, and so maybe even alluding to, again, I haven't read this, but maybe alluding to something that could possibly happen between Frank and Newt, or maybe the idea of that the entire human race is a brotherhood, or the entire idea that the Karas is a brotherhood, right? Maybe somebody dies within that, or is killed within that by Ice Nine or by a bomb or something like that, which I don't want to get too much into Ice Nine because a lot of people probably haven't read about Ice Nine too much.
Yeah, you're getting way too deep into this.
Yeah. Ice Nine is fascinating. I love it. I love that stuff. So they talk about Frank hiding it in his wall safe. I'm not going to get too much into that. He hides the book in his wall safe so that he can read the orgy scenes. Let's talk about Dr. Honecker a little bit more. He never reads a book. He never reads a novel. And then Uh, uh, he talks about how what does he say in his Nobel Prize speech? Right. He says he never stops dawdling like an 8-year-old, which is interesting because at this point, how old is Newt? He is, well, you guys already know, he's 6, right? So I think that's interesting to kind of make that connection. And maybe Frank is 8, you know? So yeah, he's a happy man as well. So Rwan, you talk about Jonah was sent to the city to preach to the wicked, to say patricide, and the stuff he does to be pretty vile. No, um, we're not saying Jonah did that yet, right? We're talking about Marvin Sharpholderness, right? As the guy who did that.
Right, and I said fratricide because he kills his own brother.
Right, fratricide, not patricide. Patricide is killing your own father.
Right.
Yeah.
How Oedipalian of you.
Yeah. So yeah. So what does Newt then say about Dr. Honecker making the cat's cradle at this time? Like, what's unique about this? Yep. Yep. He never plays games. Yeah, he also never talked to him before, right? His dad never talks to him, which I think is also interesting. Never plays game and never talks to him. And Casey, I might need your help on this, unpacking this, because I think there's something here. I'm just not sure. So, but this is happening the same day that the first atomic bomb is dropped on, like, people, right? Like, what is going on with Dr. Honecker for this to be the first time he's playing, right?
Well, I mean, first you have to wonder if he knew that this was going to be the day it was dropped, because this probably hasn't, like, the news probably hasn't broken yet.
So we will, spoilers for the next chapter, but I believe his sister comes out and tells him, right? Because he runs out of the house and his sister tries to go get him and is like, the bomb just dropped or something, right? And then I believe that happens, right?
I know she comes out, I didn't brush up on bug fights, but
I did not either.
I know she tells him that she made the dad sad because he wouldn't play with him.
Right.
But I mean, regardless, even if the news is, well, I'm going to say that while they're playing, I don't think he knows at that point the bomb is dropped. I mean, obviously he knows it's been created.
Right.
And probably delivered and is going to be dropped at some point, but for it to line up like this is, you know, kind of different.
Yeah.
It is a normal day. I don't know what day of the week August 6th, 1945 was. Does anyone know? If it's like a chill Sunday morning or it's like Tuesday, and why is this guy at home?
Yeah. Well, because they talk about him, he's never at work, right? Unless, like...
That's true. He doesn't go to work. He just does what he wants.
Yeah, he does what he wants for the General Forge and Foundry. Right. So yeah, I just found this kind of interesting, like this whole first time this has ever happened thing. It's almost like, in a sense, an atomic bomb was dropped in Newt's life, right? In a sense, like this whole massive new change happened, right? Where his dad's trying to be nice, right? He's scared of this. He never talks to him, right? Maybe something along those lines. Monday is what they're saying, so this is a Monday.
Yeah, but you also have to kind of remember this guy is at the top of his game scientifically. He probably is one of those. What I don't like your Sheldon Cooper, somebody who's difficult to talk to.
Yeah,
obviously socially awkward.
Yeah.
What's he got in common with a 6-year-old other than some genetics?
Right, definitely. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into the description of the dad, which some of you guys have already done. He's got pores like craters of the moon. And I think this is a pretty obvious allusion to something else going on. Specifically the word craters. Scientific frontier. That's not quite what I'm thinking, but I mean, it could be definitely. Yeah, he's got hair in the nostrils and ears, right? Yeah. But like the word creators in particular really stuck with me, especially in the context of what is happening.
Well, and the eyes and nostrils being stuffed with hair. I don't know. You got that. You got Crater's allusion to I guess the bomb, right? The bomb crater.
Yeah,
And
that's exactly what I was thinking. Is the crater of an atomic bomb,
which leaves something of a moonscape behind.
Yep. Yep, definitely.
I don't know if you're going on that kind of death theme. You've got stuffed, and what do you do with an animal after it's been killed? You stuff it and put it on display.
Yeah. So, but wait, what? So, like, oh, dead animals. Okay. Then cigar smoke, which probably means hey, almost the smell of something burning. You know, like an entire city, right? And so close up, his father, he's almost characterizing his father as the nuclear bomb, right? The ugliest thing he had ever seen, and you can't forget it. Again, this sounds to me like somebody who's seen a bomb explode, right? Destroy an entire city, right? The worst thing I've ever seen. I will never wake up from this, right? I think that's maybe kind of what they're alluding to here, or at least trying to imply. I should say allude. I'm using that word, I think, a little incorrectly, right? And so, yeah, I think there may be something there. There may not be. And so he bursts into tears seeing his dad so up close because he's trying to play with him, and also he starts to sing "Rockabye Baby," "Rockabye Catsy,"
which is a creepy nursery rhyme to begin with.
Yes, definitely. And if you're kind of looking at it, right, the cradle certainly came down in Hiroshima. Kind of like, hey, down will come cradle, Catsy, and all, like, that cat's gonna die if the cradle falls, and do not rockabye Zoe. Zoe does not get rockabied. Okay. So lastly, he just complains. He's writing at 2 a.m. on a typewriter. His neighbor complains, or his roommate complains, so he's got to stop. And so we pick it up again in the next chapter, which means that chapter 6 also is epistolary. And there might be more. I'm not sure. That was an hour 15-minute talk about 5 chapters.
5 very short chapters.
Yeah. We might need to speed this up for next time. I think it's just there just feels like there's a lot to unpack about this book, or you could think about, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So, so what do you guys? I kind of just like an informal poll. Maybe I'll put a better poll. But what do you guys think about this doing this daily for the next reading? I don't want to do this for 75 minutes. That's way too much. But if we can get this down to 30 minutes, I think that's nice. What do you guys think? Also, the governor thing. Yeah, lives right down the street from the governor. That's interesting. Maybe she's married to the governor.
Well, she doesn't live in that house, right?
No.
But you're supposed to, I guess, assume that her husband is somewhat important, or that they're in the higher echelon of society.
Right. Definitely.
Maybe she's an Episcopalian lady.
Yeah. So I think so people are saying like 30 to 40 minutes. If we can do that daily, that's good. I agree. I think anything more than that's going to be rough. If we try to do it daily. And we didn't necessarily go over like incredible details, although we did here and there. But I think we're just trying to hit at some allusions, and so maybe I can kind of let my I think I was honestly the one who directed a lot of those crazy digressions, which again, shocking turn of events from me there. And so we can maybe speed that up a little bit. But again, I think, Casey, as you pointed out, I think the further we go into this and the longer these chapters get, it's going to be a lot harder to ignore some of that stuff.
Right.
So we'll at least try it Monday, definitely, and see, or maybe try it all next week and just kind of see where it's at. And Mrs. Johnston can join in or not. It kind of depends on her schedule, and we'll try to work out a good schedule and stuff. 40 to 45 minutes, yeah. Definitely. I think we can probably get done with that. And I think that might be enough, because I think we really spent the first 15, 20 minutes of this just kind of hanging out in a way. So you got anything else, Miss Johnson?
No, I mean, I think, I'll point out literary things as we go along, but nothing crazy.
Yeah. Okay. I think maybe now that we've done this, we've given you guys some food for thought, and you can maybe start looking for these things a little more as you read, and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's gonna do it for today. Thank you guys so much. We're how many questions are the quizzes? 30 questions. They're tough. At least the ones I wrote are tough. I don't know about these other test writers. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so this first week, I did the first week. It's gonna be tough. The quizzes due every day, so daily you have to take the quiz. No, it starts Monday. There's a schedule on the Google Drive. Yeah.
Do they have access to that literary devices Quizlet?
No, not at this moment.
Okay.
If you want.
So when I talk about these things, they're like, "Oh, these are weird words."
Yeah, you might want to put that. You might want to put a link to that in the Google Drive or in the thing.
Okay.
When's the quiz due? The quiz is due the day of the schedule and the reading. Don't listen to Epic Ray Shot. Will we have to know chapter titles? No. Leah, hand over the Quizlet.
I'll get it to you. I can send it out in the Remind and put it in the Google Drive.
Yeah, there are 30 question quizzes. That is correct.
And they will make you want to weep.
Yeah. They're not great. They're tough. But they're going to be tough for everybody. So, don't sweat it. Don't overstress about this. Again, for those of you guys who are new here, this is just trying to see if you like this. For those of you guys who aren't new here, you know how this goes, right? I know we can't use notes, but is it timed? It is not timed. It is not timed. Yes, we all suck together. That is right. Correct. We're all going to be terrible together at these quizzes, and eventually we'll get good.
Well, I'll be in a depressing anger management type of cuirass of suckiness.
Well, they count towards our grade next year. So there's a score sheet that they're going to be on that will apply to next year in the long run, but in reality, no. Excuse me, we won large school state championship. We were not second at state.
Also, we get the suckiness out of the way up front so that the awesomeness is all that happens later.
Yep. Yeah, we do really well later, but we let everybody kind of figure out what's going on first. We may suck, but others suck worse. That is correct. Gamer0944, do not. Here we go. Epic Ray Shot. I'm gonna do a thing right here. I'm gonna do some magic. Boom. There we go.
Who is that person?
I don't know. They've been trying to get me to say something, or like they're memeing. I don't know. Yeah, we are the best of the worst. That's correct. Best large school, but the records say second. We don't worry about that. I mean, we definitely want to win. We need to beat Highland, for sure. All right, that's actually gonna do it. I'm gonna stop streaming now. I'm gonna let Miss Johnson go and, live a normal life now.
Oh, that ship has sailed, bud.
I think for all of us, we're in a crevasse of unnatural lives at this point. All right, you guys have a good weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Bye.
It's also known as Quiz Day.
Quiz Day. Quiz Day. Yes. See you guys quiz day. Adios.